I'm going to share a feel-good mommy story just for all those moms who are struggling out there with their kids in school. Being a mom is hard. Being a single mom, really hard. But I'm here to tell you not to stress out. Trust me. We all have those Facebook friends. They post things about their kids and how wonderful they are. Honor roll! Athlete of the year! My kid was none of those things. My journey began when he was in preschool, and they told me he could recite the alphabet, but he couldn't recognize his letters. I was pretty certain that I had ruined his life. He was never going to learn his letters. He was never going to learn to read. I'm a horrible mother. And so we began every night using Dr. Seuss flashcards to teach him his letters. I say we, I mean me and him. So then he started kindergarten. I had so much hope. I was so excited. I was so stupid. His first year rookie teacher sent me notes home every day of how John wasn't listening. He wasn't paying attention. And so they recommended that John go to special services because he just couldn't listen. He couldn't focus. He was 5. If all the kids were standing in line and somebody got out of line, John took it upon himself to correct them. John got in trouble. So they basically told me I had to have him tested to see what they could do to help him. Okay, so he's 5. He can't read. He doesn't know what math is, but he has the verbal skills of a 2nd grader. Somehow we got through kindergarten and he started 1st grade. That teacher did not like him, not even a little bit. He was 6. It was pretty much the same story. John couldn't sit still. John couldn't take direction. John couldn't stay on task. John didn't do his work. I was called into the principal's office at least once a week for something that John did or didn't do. Never a behavior problem, never hurt anybody, just wouldn't sit still. So one Friday night I came home from work and there was a letter from his teacher that John had cursed during class. Anyone who knows me knows him cursing might be a plausible thing, but he was only 6 years old and in 1st grade. I knew it was a mistake. So I asked him to tell me his side of the story, and he did. Everyone was cutting paper and they only had 2 pairs of safety scissors, and somebody was taking too long. Anyone who's tried to cut construction paper with safety scissors knows it's not an easy thing to do. So John was getting tired of waiting, and he told the girl to crunch it. Just crunch the paper. Crunch it. Cut the paper. Well, of course, they didn't think that's what he said. They thought he said shit. So they ran and told the teacher, John Acton said a curse word. The teacher marched John into the hallway by his hand and dragged him to the principal's office. Being 6 years old, he was completely confused and he didn't understand what was happening. So he sat in the principal's office for a while, and then they made him stand in front of class and apologize to his classmates for his behavior. He was completely confused. He didn't understand why he was in trouble. He didn't say a curse word, and he pleaded with me to believe him. And I did. At 6 years old, I'm sure he heard me say the word shit in his life, but he did not say that word in front of his class. And so I wrote a very strongly worded letter back to his teacher and to the principal. Lo and behold, Monday, the teacher had to stand in front of the class and apologize to John. But it didn't matter. Now John was considered bad. So between his kindergarten exploits and this situation in 1st grade, John is now labeled a bad kid. It was either 2nd or 3rd grade. John asked his teacher if he could join the stock market club. She told him that he shouldn't waste his time. He wasn't very good at math. His confidence in being brave enough to ask a teacher if he could join a club was shaken. He never again asked to join any clubs during school. So during this time, I'm still meeting with the special services team, and John has an IEP now. He has to be taken out of class for an hour a day. But the problem was, John didn't need extra help with his work. He could read. He could do math. They just let him sit there and play on the computer. He was just labeled the bad kid now. All the kids were always ready to get him in trouble at a moment's notice. And of course, John made that very easy by never minding his own business and never doing his work. We tried everything. A daily planner. John was required to write down all of his daily assignments, and every teacher would sign their name next to it. But despite the fact that they did that all the way through middle school, they stopped doing it usually probably around November and just gave up. Meanwhile, I'm spending every night till 11 o'clock with nothing on the kitchen table except his homework and a pencil, and he's playing with the pencil. Most parents look forward to September when school starts. I dreaded September. I hated it. Hated it. Hated it. So I sat in IEP meetings all by myself, feeling like I was being attacked from second grade all the way to his second junior year. He couldn't tie his shoes till like sixth, seventh grade, not because I didn't teach him, but because there was Velcro. I mean, it didn't matter anyway. He was never going to be an athlete or a mathlete. The only thing worse than an IEP meeting was parent-teacher conferences. I hated November too. By the time he reached, I think it was like 8th or ninth grade, I just couldn't take it anymore. Have you considered setting up a chart with chores and homework on it, and you give him a star every time he does something? Have you considered taking away his gaming systems? Oh, I'm sorry, you mean the ones that I haven't let him touch in 2 years? But my favorite question/suggestion was, could it be John's home environment? Is there a male relative that can help you? You know, because he's from a broken home. Our home's broken. Never mind that I fixed it by getting divorced. It's broken. And then I have friends, wonderful friends with beautiful children who get straight A's, and they're on the honor roll all the time. Oh, look at Susie, straight A's again. National Honor Society, Athlete of the Year. Really happy for you, Susie, and mom and dad, but that's not my kid. I'm not really sure why people think because their kids are successful at these things that means my kid's an idiot and I'm a failure as a mother. I mean, whose fault is it when your son is disinterested in school? Is it my fault, even though I spend every day hounding him and aggravating him? You know that old saying, you sound like a broken record? Every day I sounded like a broken record. And people's helpful suggestions and questions didn't help at all. In fact, there's been many social events and many friends that I've avoided just to stop having to answer the damn questions. I don't do well with confrontation, and when you're asking me questions about why my kid's not doing something, feels like I'm being confronted, but I'm not sure why. I mean, I know people care and they want to know and they want to be helpful, but it really wasn't helpful at all. In fact, it made me feel ashamed. So somehow, through the grace of God, he graduated high school after 5 years. I was proud of him when he graduated, but most of all, I felt relieved that I didn't have to deal with Septembers anymore. So the past 2 years since he graduated high school, people's questions just continued to pour in, like they were daily news reporters or something. But what they don't know is that I spent every waking moment in the past 2 years asking him what his plan was. What was he going to do? What are you going to do? In the past 2 years, there hasn't been a day or even a moment that I haven't asked him those very same questions. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you going to do? Honestly, I think he was afraid. He was afraid of failing. He failed so much for 14 years of school, he didn't want to keep failing. So the past 2 years, he has suffered from anxiety and depression and paralyzed himself with fear, basically. But the questions just kept on coming. Does he drive yet? No. Does he have a girlfriend? No. Does he have a job? No. And so last year in December, when we were having one of our marathon arguments about what he wanted to do, he decided what he wanted to do. He decided on pastry school in New York City. New York City. My kid. I mean, I've threatened him many times in the past 2 years not to waste the money that I had saved for him to go to college. I pretty much knew in like 9th or 10th grade he was never going to college. He just was never going to go. And so in March, my son, who has been paralyzed with fear and anxiety for 2 years or longer, started pastry school in New York City, riding the bus every day to the city and then the subway. We're not city people. My son, the same person who was late every day for high school to the point that he got suspended, was early every day. So I've spent a lot of time since March of this year with this look on my face. What? Now granted, some of my friends' kids are in school and college and they do everything by themselves and nobody blinks an eye. But my son, the same kid who up until his senior year of high school had me up till 11 o'clock every night yelling at him to do his homework, coming home from pastry school, doing homework and studying without anybody telling him or reminding him. I was very confused by this new reality, Is this what parents of children who do their work actually feel like? I guess I didn't know till he started doing these things that y'all were spoiled. You mean while he was leaving his backpack, towel, and bathing suits at summer camp, your kids were bringing their stuff home? You didn't have to go to Kmart every day for the first 2 weeks of summer camp to replace all the stuff he forgot? You weren't up at midnight helping them with their project that they just told you about at 10 p.m.? What? Well, I've just been very confused since March. Happy, but I'm still waiting for a house to fall on me. So he graduated pastry school in August and he did one internship, but the past 2 months he hasn't really done much. And I thought, Lord Jesus, here we go again. I'm going to be spending 2 more years waiting for him to get a job. But then in November, stuff started happening and now I know a house is going to fall on me. He got a girlfriend and a job. Tell you the truth, I'm still a little afraid to say it out loud. It's just weird, but today he got paid from a job. This might not seem like a big accomplishment to anybody but me, but you didn't suffer for 14 years. I did. So I'm just going to tell the moms that are suffering right now with their kids that are having trouble in school not to give up hope. Because guess what? He knows his letters now, and he could tie his own shoes. Don't let them get you down. Don't let them get you down, because it will all work out. I'm hoping it don't take you as many years as it took us, but it will all work out eventually. And please learn a lesson from me. You don't have to answer people's questions when they ask you what your kid's doing and why they're not doing something. It's none of their business. And if you're a lucky parent that has a child that does everything and is great at everything and is awesome, you don't have to brag about it every minute of every day. Because I'm pretty sure my friends know me well enough to know that I'm a good mom. And all of these things that he wasn't doing was not because I was a bad mom. So that must mean because Susie's a straight A student and a perfect athlete and is the captain of the cheerleading squad and the most popular girl in school, that's all Susie's work. Because you're no better a mama than me. I kept trying to tell people I can't make him do it. God knows I tried, but I couldn't make him do it. He had to do it himself. The truth is, it's nobody's business what your kid's doing or not doing. It really is nobody's business but yours and your kid. Does that mean I'm a bad mom because my kid didn't do all the things that your kid did? Is that what you're really trying to tell me with all your questions and judgments? So, I have a lot of gray hair. You could see it. 93.6% of that came from John. I can't tell you what the rest of the percent is that came from everybody else and their questions. But John could tell you that because apparently he could do math now too. I don't know what the hell's going on. Don't be afraid to let your kids fail because they learn more from failure sometimes than they do from success. There was a benefit to failure in that in pastry school when a project wasn't working out as planned. He learned from it and moved on. Some of his classmates who were perfectionists totally freaked out, stressed out to the point that some of them left class. They weren't used to failing at anything, ever. But John's an expert at failing. I'd like to think that he gets that expertise in failure from his mother, but I'm not sure. And you know, all that fail didn't make me jealous of your children that succeeded. I was happy for them, and I was really happy for you. See, all the questions didn't ever help me. All the questions I had no answers for. The only thing I had was faith in my son and in my mothering. And sometimes everybody's questions made me question my faith in myself, but they never made me question my faith in him. Because I've watched him fail and pick himself up and move forward and laugh about it. And I knew he'd be okay. So he's not going to college and he's not going to have a master's degree and he's not going to be a CEO maybe. I don't know. But you see, he's happy. And he's doing something that he's good at and he's learning and he's proud of himself. I knew I didn't have to worry about his work ethic because I knew he would have my work ethic. And he does. So, some of these things I've never said out loud to anybody else, but you don't have to answer anybody else's questions. And if you know your friend's having trouble with their kid, don't ask any questions. And don't give helpful advice, because it's not helpful. Just have faith in yourself, your parenting, and in your kid. It's all going to work out. Everybody's going to know how to tie their own shoes. It's just been very weird the past month. I don't know this feeling of winning. I'm proud of him, but I've always been proud of him. I feel relieved that I didn't break my kid. I thought I broke my kid. A lot of people have been saying, wow, you must feel so relieved and so happy. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy he's happy. And I'm relieved. I'm relieved that there's not going to be any more questions that I don't have good answers for.